Welcome. I'm Amber Renee. I'm a Reiki master teacher, licensed massage therapist, tarot reader, clairvoyant, claircognizant, clairsentient. I specialize in moving trauma out of the body or helping trauma to move out of your body using Reiki and tarot and my innate knowledge of the human organism. I use these as interpretive tools to channel guidance that will help you live a more empowered life. I'm here to offer a tarot reading in support of our roles in a social change ecosystem. So I got this idea from some work by Deepa Iyer. She created a wheel or a chart of 10 different roles that people tend to fall into in times of social change. So I'm going to tell you just a little bit more about this. And as I do so, I'm just going to show you my crystals that I have here. And this is a rainbow obsidian sphere. And I also have a clear quartz point and a small piece of amethyst. So I'm offering this tarot reading as a way to empower your role as we move through this transformative change. We are all agents of change. Change is the only constant in life. And it's really important for us to recognize what our roles are so that we can utilize our strengths to help ourselves transform and to help humanity transform. So if you're not already familiar with these roles, with this chart, with the work of Deepa Iyer, I would suggest pausing the video and clicking the link that I left in the description box so that you can decipher which roles you identify with the most. And that way you can maybe have a better understanding of which messages that come through from the tarot are relevant for you. But you can also choose to just listen to them all. I'm going to pull one tarot card for each role. This is a piece of amethyst that I keep in the pouch with this deck of tarot cards all the time. They're always together. We're going to be using the Numinous Tarot. They have gold siding. May all information come through crisp and clear, in alignment and accordance with the greatest good and highest potential of everyone involved. I'm just letting a little bit of sage smoke run over my tarot cards. So that we can have some fresh, clean energy to work with. So without further delay, let's pull some cards. So let's start with the Weavers. So this first card pull will be for the role of the Weavers. Those of you who identify with the role of the Weaver during a time of social change. The affirmation for the Weavers is, I see through to the lines of connectivity between people, places, organizations, ideas, and movements. So let's draw a card for the Weavers. A message to help the Weavers empower themselves and connect to their strength. Wow. We got the Tower. So this is one of those famous kind of cards. Most people who know the tarot have heard of the Tower, or if you're, just vaguely familiar. This is a card of destruction, but it is purposeful destruction, necessary destruction. You'll see in the image, it's stormy. There's something falling from the sky that knocked this person out of their comfort zone. Because somebody who's been spending a lot of time up in a tower probably felt pretty safe. And now they're being thrown to sea, thrown into the unknown, and thrown into, they don't know where the ground is. Being thrown into just a body of water with no solid ground. So as a card of empowerment for the Weavers who see the through lines of connectivity between people, places, organizations, ideas, and movements. This is the Tower. So what I feel here is that the Weavers, you might naturally be the type of person that sees the connection, that can forge the connections, create meaningful connections, bring people together, bring different organizations together, propose ideas within groups that maybe normally wouldn't come up with those ideas themselves, that type of thing. And what I get from the Tower for you, Weavers, is that you're being challenged now. The ways in which you noticed connections and created connections before, they're not working anymore. So it's almost like this is another layer of the tower. We collectively are going through a tower moment because tower moments basically just destroy everything familiar, everything comfortable, and force you to rebuild. So, Weavers, your message from the tarot is to stop trying to do things the old way. Recognize that in transformation as grand and thorough as the one that we are currently going through, and the one that you're currently going through. So no matter where you are, Weavers, your message is to recognize that the tower moment is happening on a macro level, micro level, all levels. And that means that your go-to strategies are not going to work anymore. And it's time to basically free fall and just go with every moment. It's you have to listen to your intuition right now because that's all there is. There's nothing else holding you back. You're doing this on your own. You're falling on your own. Not to say that you don't have support, because you do. But as a weaver, you need to come up with new ways, new ideas, because the old ways are destroyed. The old strategies are destroyed. We'll move on to the experimenters. Your affirmation is, I innovate, pioneer, and invent. I take risks and course correct as needed. One single card fell out, and I am sure it's meant for you, experimenters, and it's the Chariot. So in this version of the Chariot, we have 2 unicorns. There's a black unicorn back here and a white unicorn here, symbolizing mastering a balance between the light and the dark. And this woman seems very in tune with the unicorns. She's very relaxed. They seem to be moving and floating, very much going with the flow, almost like they're following this sort of rainbow road behind them. And she has, there's ribbons entangling them, but it's not really like she's holding reins and controlling them. She's understanding them rather than controlling them in order to gain control. So experimenters, those of you who identify with the role of innovating, inventing, pioneering, taking risks. Your message is understand the beast that you're trying to tame. This is how you will invent something that really helps, that really works. Get to know the subtle behaviors of the thing that you want to control with your innovations and your inventions. Your risk will be much more likely to be rewarded. The next role that we're going to pull a card for is the Frontline Responders. So those of you who identify as Frontline Responders, a card just flipped out for you. So the card that came out for you, Frontline Responders, got the Ace of Vials. So here we see this vial, and it looks special. It's wrapped in this carefully tied string, and it has a pendant hanging on it. This beautiful flower blooming behind it, and there's just water gushing out. Look, it's just pushing the cork right up and just gushing out, and it's landing right into a larger body of water, so it can become one with the larger body. So this is like new emotions springing up. So Frontline Responders, your affirmation is, I address community crisis by marshaling and organizing resources, networks, and messages. So what I feel from this card, your message is actually that I feel that it's saying, Frontline Responders, you're used to being in this role, but you're not used to feeling this much emotion related to your role. You're coming across some new emotional connections to your role, and it may be feeling a little bit overwhelming. But within that message too, you are so needed. You're the first point of contact for the community, is kind of what I feel from this, that you're meant to be a little bit vulnerable right now. Your vulnerability is helping you to stay connected to the community that you're in place to assist. In a time of crisis, this might be a time of crisis for you, with added emotions. I feel like this is a blessing on those emotions. If they've been feeling dark or overwhelming, the white lotus flowers and the white foam and all the calming lily pads in the background, this is telling you that your vulnerable emotional connection is potent magic, and it is actually helping to heal the community that you are in place to assist. Our next role is for the Visionaries. So Visionaries, your affirmation is, I imagine and generate our boldest possibilities, hopes, and dreams, and remind us of our direction. Let's pull a card for the Visionaries. Ooh. The 10 of Candles. Some very intense energies here coming through already in these first 4, which makes sense because there's a lot of intensity happening at the time that I'm filming this. So even if you are watching this later in the future, I'm sure you're drawn to it because there's intensity in your life as well. So 10 of Candles for the Visionaries. So in this image we see a person who's looks like they've collapsed, and they've clearly been moving through some like muddy trenches. They have mud on their legs and their feet and on the bottoms of their clothes, and they look exhausted, and they have this burden of this burning energy just dripping down their back, carrying the load of all this energy. So Visionaries, you may be very tired right now. You may be feeling like, what is the point of trying to envision anything bold anymore? What is the point of holding a vision of my ideal future or an ideal for humanity? Because there's just so much counter energy that's pushing my visions down. With the 10 of Candles, it represents trying to carry a load that's too heavy for you, rather than breaking it up into smaller trips. So Visionaries, you may want to fine-tune the focus of your visions, perhaps draw them back a little bit. Maybe your visions are just moving way too far up into the future, and it's causing you to feel a little bit of this overwhelm. Or maybe you're attempting to hold the visions for way too many people. Maybe it's time to shift the perspective of your visions for a short time to just yourself, instead of for a larger community or society or a group. And this would be just temporary. But you know that when you focus on yourself, when you work to envision dreams for yourself, that it will reflect into the collective. So pull back your visions just a little bit. You don't need to hold vision for the entire world. Maybe hold a vision for just how you would like to feel better in the next 7 days. And after you have allowed this dripping wax to dry and harden, it'll lighten up and you can push it off your body. You can stand up straight and you can begin to craft an even more crisp and clear vision for humanity or for the world or for your community than you would have had you not taken the time to lighten this load a little bit. I apologize if you're hearing cars go by in the background. I do have my AC on, but there's also a window open in another room. Our next role is for the builders. Those of you who identify as builders in the ecosystem of social change. Your affirmation is, I develop, organize, and implement ideas, practices, people, and resources in service of a collective vision. Builders. Let's pull a card for the builders. Oh, the 9 of Tomes for the builders. So in this card we see a woman or a person who is in a library full of knowledge and also full of blooming greenery. There's wisdom and life here, and feeling confident. It almost looks to me like this person has been studying and is just standing up and looking out into the world after having their nose in a book for a very long time. So, builders, you may have been planning for quite a while. You may have been studying, maybe not even planning, but studying so that you can create a plan. So I would say that, builders, your message is you're ready to begin implementing. You've been in the development and organization phase, and now you're about ready to implement these ideas. You may be gathering all of this knowledge in your mind as you look outward at the changes that you're attempting to manifest and create. So trust. If you think you might be ready, trust that, because you probably are. And I think the universe, the community is ready for your action. You have all the wisdom you need at this moment to move forward with your plans. So we're going to move on to our 6th role now. The next one will be the caregivers. So this one will be for the caregivers. Caregivers, your affirmation is, I nurture and nourish the people around me by creating and sustaining a community of care, joy, and connection. So caregivers, let's draw a card for you. Caregivers, another ace, the Ace of Tomes for you. So in the Ace of Tomes, we see all these very grounding tools. There's runes laying face up on the floor, a lot of crystal quartz points. There might be some other stones or even maybe just some earth on the ground there. And this is a grimoire with all kinds of bookmarks in it, so a well-used grimoire. And it has a labyrinth on the front. So the Ace of Tomes for the caregivers. This is a talisman that is helping to ground you. So caregivers, you may be noticing that you might need a little bit of extra grounding now. So this card is asking you to use some tools of the earth. Go back to well-used tools that you have utilized in the past, tools that you know work for you to help you feel grounded and clear. You can use crystals or divination as well to help you feel more grounded. And this is a new kind of grounding, another ace. It's like on a new level, and it's almost like spiraling. Like you've felt yourself in a similar circumstance before, but this one is probably more intense or is requiring more grounding than usual. And it can also just be that maybe this is your first time experiencing yourself in the role of a caregiver in the context of a social change ecosystem. And in that case, you may not really even have thought about the fact that you need some extra grounding. This could also be indicating with this well-worn and well-read grimoire in the picture that for those of you who may be experiencing your role as a caregiver for the first time and are needing some grounding in this role for the first time, maybe you could seek out guidance, advice from somebody who has more experience. So next we'll pull a card for the disruptors. Those of you who identify as disruptors in the ecosystem of social change. And your affirmation is, I take uncomfortable and risky actions to shake up the status quo, to raise awareness, and to build power. Let's pull a card for the disruptors. Another suit of tomes, this time the 8 of tomes for you disruptors. The 8 of tomes. So disruptors, the image here is of a person who's been making zines. It looks like they're putting together information and they're doing it all with their own resources. They're not relying on anybody else to get this information out. And it would be valuable information to them and worth the time and effort it takes to make all of these. So disruptors actually feel like you're meant to go a little bit underground. Like I get the sense that this person might be like kind of in a basement because it's dark and they just have this one light shining on them to illuminate their project. There's all these cups of tea and coffee and chips, like they've been working for a long time. They've been here for a long time. So your role right now in raising awareness might be to put some energy into a creative project, a tangible object that you can hand out to people that will raise awareness. And maybe it's some controversial information that could be more easily absorbed by the public if it were in an easily digestible package, such as a zine or a handcrafted item. So I feel like the disruptors who are watching this, a lot of you may be artists, writers, and you're meant to be using your art and your creativity in order to shake up the status quo and get some of the awareness on this information. It's an exciting one to me. Our next role will be for the healers. So those of you who identify as healers within the social change ecosystem. And healers, your affirmation is, I recognize and tend to the generational and current traumas caused by oppressive systems, institutions, policies, and practices. So those of you who are working to move trauma out of the collective, healers, we got the 6 of vials for you. This is ancestor work. So healers, you see in this photo, this person is using their magical potions, or there's another word I'm trying to think of here, but they have some tinctures or potions or objects that help them connect to their ancestors. This is on an altar. You see they have a tribute to an elder. And this is a young person who's calling on the elders. So healers, you're meant to be connecting to ancestors right now. Maybe generations past who have gone through similar social change, calling for their spiritual power and calling for their advice from the other worlds, calling for their strength and their guidance. So healers connect with the spirit world, and especially the ancestors from your personal generation, ancestors of your community, ancestors that have gone through similar social change. Our next card pull will be for the Storytellers. Storytellers. Your affirmation is, I craft and share our community stories, cultures, experiences, histories, and possibilities through art, music, media, and movement. Storytellers, we'll pull a card for you. Oh, Storytellers, you got the Magician. So Storytellers, you have all of these stories, the histories, you know the art, the media, the practices from the community that's going through these big changes. So right now, this message is telling you that right now is your time to craft some really quality content. You're meant to actually be crafting the stories that will be told in the history books about this time. So grab your tools. Perhaps it's an instrument. Perhaps it's your body as a dancer. Perhaps it's paint or pen and paper. Or perhaps it's interviewing people, amplifying the voices of others. Whatever it is for you, Storytellers, this is your time to really be crafting and creating something potent and new. So even though you are masterful, even though you have been working with your apprentice for so long, which that could mean, you've been studying your culture, you've been gathering stories from within these cultures and communities, you've been researching histories. Take all of these things and begin to craft this new story. So you're not really meant to be telling the story yet. This is a time of crafting, of alchemizing, discovering how you can take these pieces and create alchemy for social change. So this is our last one. This is the last roll in the list. The last one will be for the guides. Those who identify as guides within the social change ecosystem. And your affirmation is, I teach, counsel, and advise using my gifts of well-earned discernment and wisdom. So, Dreamer of Vials for the guides. I feel like this is saying that you're meant to guide with an attitude of fun and joy, even if you're uncertain about the outcome. Use colorful props, I guess you could say. Awaken the senses. This is your message, guides. Offer your message in a way that awakens the senses of those that you are attempting to teach. So, that's our tarot reading. I do hope this was enlightening, empowering, and helpful for all of you who have listened. Thank you so much for joining me and engaging in this tarot reading for roles in the social change ecosystem. May you be blessed. Let's light a little Palo Santo to end our time. Blessings, well wishes, and may you be met with magic. Thank you for joining me, Prismatic beings. I'll see you next time.